Okay, so good morning everyone. I'm here at the Still Point Meditation Center in Vienna with Jacques. Jacques is the founder of this meditation group. Thank you for being here, Jacques.
Good morning.
So, I wanted to start out by asking you what kind of work you were involved with before retirement.
Well, I was working at the United Nations in New York, in one of its agencies actually called UNDP, and I was dealing with environmental programs there, traveling throughout the world, mostly in developing countries, to implement projects related to the ozone layer, to the Montreal Protocol. That was my activities.
Sounds really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, what is Still Point and how did it get started?
Well, after about 32 years of working there, I decided that it was time for me to take my retirement and also to move back to Europe. And I decided to come and move to Vienna in Austria. My goal in life was always meditation, spirituality, finding our true self. And I took this opportunity to realize this dream that I have always had is to establish this little center called the Still Point.
Okay, beautiful. How did you discover meditation? And could you tell us a bit more about your personal journey with it?
Well, I was really educated in a non-religious and non-spiritual way. My parents' happiness in life really centered around a good meal, a good holiday in the Mediterranean, near the Mediterranean Sea, or sports and activities like that. But when I grew up as a teenager, I found those activities somehow not really truly satisfying. There was something missing. At one point, during one of my holidays, actually it was in the UK, I then suddenly had an opening, a spiritual experience, where I was walking on the cliffs and near the sea, and all was oneness was revealed to me. It was a real spiritual moment, and that brought me then to a spiritual path, which was lacking in a way during my youth.
Actually, I'm curious because I don't know myself. What's Advaita meditation?
Well, just a few weeks after this kind of oneness experience occurred to me, I met my first teacher in Advaita. Advaita is an Indian tradition. It means non-duality. It is mostly related to satsang. Satsangs means question and answer. So people ask questions about themselves, about their true nature, and the teacher then provides a response that is not related to individual, but more to this oneness. I happened to come to one of these meetings by this teacher, Jacques, and I recognized that what he was talking about was exactly what I had experienced a few weeks before during that holiday. And that generated the interest in me to pursue this path. And I met several other teachers after that in Europe, mostly European teachers. I would like also to stress that the European teachers I met, presented this teaching devoid from its Indian tradition. So there were no rituals, there were no religious aspects involved. It was purely concerned with the question, who am I, and about non-duality. Some of the teachers were Walter Keers from Holland, Douglas Harding from the UK, etc.
Okay. And from my understanding, you're not only working with Advaita meditation here, but also with Zen meditation. Could you tell me a little about that?
That is correct. When I then got involved in my career, I ended up living for 2 years in South Korea, meeting some of the Buddhist monasteries that one can visit there. And somehow, unconsciously, I got somehow interested in those traditions too, because I also felt that they were leading to the same kind of investigative questions about one's true nature, one's true self. And then when later on I got into New York, that's where I really got into a Zen practice. That was then a Japanese style Zen called Rinzai Zen. And I visited that center in New York regularly, a few times a week, and also had some of the retreats in a mountain retreat called Daibosatsu Zendo, under the leadership of a Japanese master called Edo Shimano-roshi. That's how I got into it, and somehow I had this need to have a slightly more disciplined approach, and so that suited me very well for those years during my career. I must then also add that after that, many years later, I felt the need to go back to the initial approach, the Advaita approach, because of the Zen is really very disciplined, while Advaita is a little more relaxed. And in order to practice meditation in daily life, I felt that Advaita could give me more guidance, whether you are eating strawberry or you're taking the U-Bahn in Vienna or you're doing whatever activity you're doing, to practice that during the daily moments. I felt Advaita was more appropriate, because at Zen retreats you're kind of on the top of a mountain, but you're not really practicing it in daily life so much.
Okay, well, it sounds like the two forms complement each other very well. One is for the everyday, and the other is more for this solitude time.
Yeah, one can say so.
Mm-hmm. How would you say that these two methods compare and work together?
It was my experience that in Zen approach has a more intuitive approach. One doesn't talk. One doesn't speak about our true nature, our Buddha nature very often. It's kind of frowned upon. In Advaita, on the other hand, we talk maybe a little bit too much and we don't practice it. So the two are really complementing each other very well in that way, because we need the depth of Zen to have a better feeling of what it means to live out of one's true nature. But on the other hand, as Westerners, we also have a very big need to understand, and intellectually, but also in the feeling level, what this is all about. So for me, the two approaches fitted perfectly well together.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like they really create one whole, one balanced picture.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I would say so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Could you walk me through how a usual Thursday night session goes?
Well, we sit together here in this room, and as you know, it's called the still point, and this room is round like a point too. We start usually with a little introduction to make people feel more comfortable. One can move, one can sit on chairs, one can sit on the cushions of the ground. It's as people prefer. One can sit with the eyes open like it's usually done in Zen, or eyes closed like it's usually done in Advaita. I give people a lot of freedom. Then that is followed by a period of guided meditation. And very often I inspire myself from one of the famous Zen koans that are available. And from time to time I take a text from one of my teachers, Jacques, but also the later ones, Francis Lucille or Rupert Spira, or sometimes from Douglas Harding and others from the past. So after that, that's the second part, after that then comes what is more customary in Advaita, a period of questions and answers, whereby people ask me questions and I answer them from a oneness point of view.
Okay.
So this is a great summary on how these sessions go.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And what inspired you to name the group Still Point?
The still point is actually what we really are. So it's not just stillness, it's really our true nature. Let me clarify this a bit. We are living in the universe, in this world, and we can see this room here in this world appearing to us. Yeah? The room has 3 dimensions and is also evolving in time. Yeah? And the perceiver is that what perceives this 3, or if you want, 4-dimensional reality. That also happens during the night. During the night we can have a night dream about a whole situation with people and flowers and birds and whatever it is, which also is in 3-dimensional space, but an imagined one at that moment, and which also evolves in time. But that is again being perceived. It is being perceived by that same still point that we are, because the perceiver does not have these 3 dimensions and this parameter of time. It's just happening in it, and it is actually beyond time and beyond space. That's why the name still point. There are many other moments, if I may add to this. For example, the moment that we have between 2 thoughts. Yeah? A thought is 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional, and second thought is, but what happens that in that gap in between?
Mm-hmm.
Or a moment that we are suddenly surprised by something. Suddenly we meet someone. Oh, that moment is also beyond time and space. And moments of beauty, when you suddenly are amazed by a beautiful painting, or moments of love are also beyond time and space. So this is just to give you a little taste of what is meant by still point.
Okay, very nice. Thank you for a beautiful explanation. I'd like to conclude this interview by asking you about the future of Still Point. So what are your hopes for this meeting group in the future, and what effect, if any effect at all, do you wish to have on people?
Well, right now it's a small group. We meet once a week on Thursday evenings between 7 and 9, and we have between 8 and 12 people coming on a quite regular basis, which is just a small beginning maybe, and maybe it will evolve. I don't have particular desire to make it big or to make it grow. It just, let's see what the universe will do. Let's see what will happen to it. If it needs to grow, it will grow, and I can then add more evenings and more sittings. If not, then we keep it small, and it is beautiful the way it is. So I'm open to all possibilities. As to others, well, I hope that the sessions that we have here allow people to have a better understanding of what their true nature is, what they really are. Because let's not forget, if we believe in being a small body mind in a huge world, we somehow live our lives in a wrong way. We don't really fit. We are kind of unhappy. Being able to live our lives from this expanded consciousness that we really are allows people to have fuller lives, more creative lives, and more happy lives. So that is what I hope those meetings can give to people. Mm-hmm. And what we just do here is turning mirrors around, you know. It's like people ask questions. It's just like I turn a mirror, like, you, this is what you are, and that's about it. Mm-hmm. So this is in a nutshell.
Sounds like a perfect weekly reminder of who we really are.
Exactly, mm-hmm. Because we have been having so many bad habits accumulated over years and years of education and by our parents, that there is a need to be reminded gently about what we are, mm-hmm. on a repeated way. It's not just like once, it has to be kind of, exactly. In order to be able to be established in this, you need to be reminded more than once.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Good. Well, thank you for taking the time to.
Thank you very much for this interview. It was a pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Have a nice day.